Dan Bongino has the greatest existential threats to America right now, two subjects we've covered profusely on this channel. Welcome to Doug in Exile, where we're ahead of the game. We're guessing right, but Dan Bongino seems a little scared. I don't like getting scared, but I totally get where he's coming from. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, you're only going to be missing out on the truth.
My sources have repeatedly told me that they can barely sleep at night, that if the average American knew how bad it was, they'd be shocked to their inner core. Is that true?
I appreciate it. I'm just trying to lighten it up because your question's so serious. But the premise of your question is 100% accurate. The threat picture now for the United States is dramatic, and I really appreciate we have a president, an attorney general, and FBI director who take those threats seriously. I mean, you name it, Sean. You ask me what's the biggest threat right now. People say, well, what keeps you up at night? Well, the answer is that I'd never sleep if I thought about this stuff all the time, but it all keeps me up at night. The drone threat. This is a perilous, acute threat. It's not here tomorrow. It's here today.
This is in response to what's happening in Russia, where drones allow you to have a camera on the drone to see it guide into its little suicide mission. And the whole war in Ukraine versus Russia is being conducted by cheap, repurposed drones, hundreds of thousands of them. They're able to take out airplanes. So if you think about China having land near all of our bases in America right now, and they have some kind of a great big warehouse on that land that we don't know about, and it's loaded up with drones, and suddenly they come up and they're packaged with C4, and it just flies in, and they have their little headsets on, and they fly it into all of our planes on one of those bases, or coordinated across all of our bases. It would be very hard to defend against that. That's all it is to it. It's about we can have giant billion-dollar destroyers and ships, and you launch 10,000 drone attacks on them. You've also seen me cover Palantir, the big tech industry that deals in drone technology. They also have these giant beams, like huge plates that are like the size of your living room wall, that shoot a heat beam out and can take out tens of thousands of drones at a time. So we are responding to it, but that's the big threat, not nuclear war. That's the big threat that Dan Bongino is worried about, right? And the other one is AI, which we've been covering. We have to make sure that patriots are in control of AI, including having our very best, biggest minds writing counter AI programs to the Chinese AI programs that are infiltrating all of our systems. You don't want to abandon AI. They'll just come in and they'll run all your electricity. They will take over all your computers. You want, just like that giant defensive mechanism against drones that can shoot a giant beam, you want an army of AI bots going out and protecting everyone and doing counter operations in China. There.
Everybody saw what happened in Russia. It's only a matter of time if we don't take action, which I promise you, the Attorney General and the Director and I are taking action on this threat. It is here right now. You've got the threat of AI, alignment there. You've got the threat of China, infiltration into our systems. It's been publicly reported. You've seen it. When you get the President's Daily Brief every morning, like the Director and I do, for this half an hour block we get, it's the first thing we do. You know, Sean, you walk out of there and you're like, somebody go get me a cup of coffee. I mean, this is really, I need a coffee relaxes me a little bit.
Because, I mean, at the very least, by the way, I love me some, I could go for a coffee right now. Isn't it great that Trump is getting this briefing and Dan Bongino and Pete Hegseth are looking at it going, what are we going to do about this threat? Instead of Joe Biden going, someone tell me what to think. And we know that his administration said the #1 threat to America is global climate change.
And the only existential threat humanity faces, even more frightening than a nuclear war, is global warming going above 1.5 degrees in the next 10 years. And we're in real trouble. There's no way back from that.
They were working on changing the sun's temperature while China's been infiltrating our computer systems, hostile drone companies, all the drone manufacturing being taken over in China. They're competing in a massive AI race right now with us. And Joe Biden was working on the temperature of the sun.
According to the intelligence community, terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al Qaeda, white supremacists.
Thank the Lord for Trump. We really dodged a serious bullet. Adults are in charge.
Because you go out of there, your blood pressure's through the roof. It's so many different things to action. And one last thing, when you combine that with the director and our priority, which is reform. Without reform, we're not going to have anything. Because the American people won't trust us. They will not trust us. And after what happened, I don't blame them for that mistrust. You combine that and layer it on. We got a big job, but the director and I are glad we're doing it.
But there's more. This episode's going to get a little spooky. We're going to go all the way down the road, even to the Antichrist discussion. So here's Schellenberger, who I've also done a ton of shows on.
I mean, yeah, masks off, right? I mean, it is amazing to see Democrats defend the use of illegal labor that drives down the salaries of working Americans. I mean, these were folks for decades that were telling us that the market is everything, and that there's the iron law of supply and demand. And then they told us that, no, we can import large numbers of unskilled workers and it will have no effect on wages. And then they finally reveal, well, we really want them as our servant underclass. I think it really speaks to the moment. I think we're just starting to see what's really, it was a hollow log. I mean, it was just, there was nothing there. So when the Democrats were defeated politically, people could see that this was an anti-civilization agenda.
Anti-civilization agenda. It's that agenda that we are fighting, and it's that agenda that is evil. So I like that he called that out, that the Democrats, they don't even have an agenda. Even anti-civilization is not their formal thought pattern. It's just kind of a default. They believe that we're foundationally an evil country. Subconsciously, they naturally would start passing things that help tear us apart.
That's why they're constantly on the side of defending crime and criminals. What comes out of it is you just see all these episodes where, you see this kind of behaviors where the left has been defending things in the name of compassion, but then when the reasons change, they're still defending law breaking. And you realize just how much of the agenda for the left had become demanding the non-enforcement of the law against a group of people who have been defined as victims.
But remember that thoughts on victims and compassion, that's going to play in a later clip. I just want you to kind of take a footnote of it, that the Democrats are claiming a higher compassion, and that the people they're trying to help are victims, but that they believe they're doing good. They don't believe they're doing evil. This is an old C.S. Lewis quote, that they will continue doubling down on their plan because in their mind, they believe they're doing good. And even as they destroy whole families with illegal crime and lose battles and waste money, they'll still think it's the good. That's why they keep doing it. They're not turned from evidence against their point of view.
But not to reduce suffering or to be compassionate, but just to unmake civilization, just to create the kind of disorder, because that has been what the left has done over the radicalization of the left has meant that it looks at every single foundation and fence that's essential for maintaining civilization and attack that out of the idea that Western civilization is uniquely evil and needs to be overturned.
And when they overturn it and use their ideas, we've seen those ideas. Don't they see that the ideas they're replacing Western civilization with don't work?
No, they don't. They actually see even their failures as successes. They think they're martyrs. If the gay agenda doesn't work, we're going to get into that at this episode. They just go, well, they religiously believe it. If they see that burning down Tesla dealerships didn't work, they still don't reject it. They just say, well, that didn't work. But they never called it out as evil. They don't think it's evil because it also contributes to their end goal of dismantling our evil Western civilization.
I mean, these are luxury beliefs. I mean, here I'm at the epicenter of it here in the Berkeley Hills. My neighbors have Black Lives Matter signs up, but they don't deal with the consequences of living in a high crime neighborhood. When they call 9/11, they expect the police to arrive within 30 seconds to a minute. They won't want any delays. So they're imposing the anarcho-tyranny on the people around them, but they don't want to suffer the consequences of themselves, and they live in a bubble, so they don't even really appreciate it. They side with the people advocating against the structures of civilization rather than the people demanding that they be enforced.
Because they think they're smart, and that's what an elite does. They don't look at the evidence. They don't see how it comes out first.
We're not the Federal Bureau of freaking word games anymore, okay? It's the Federal Bureau of Investigation. When some guy shows up at a scene, and I'm getting an intel stream from our information center that indicates he threw an incendiary device, okay, while screaming very specific words with multiple witnesses and video.
Muslim words against Jews.
We're damn well going to investigate it. Listen to me, investigate it as targeted violence and a terror attack. You don't like it, you don't have to follow my official Twitter. But I saw a whole bunch of people losing their minds. What the hell you want us to investigate it as? A freaking grand larceny auto? We're investigating it as a terror attack because that's the information we have. And we're not going to start playing euphemisms games and word games anymore. We're not doing it. We're the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and we're going to investigate properly.
This one, I'll admit, it's a little strange. This is Peter Thiel on the right there, and Peter Robinson on the left there. Peter Robinson was famous for writing the Ronald Reagan speech when he yelled at Russia and said, "Tear down this wall." That was written by this guy, Peter Robinson, a Reagan speechwriter. The other guy is Peter Thiel, who's he's a Trump supporter, late Trump supporter. He's out of big tech, a billionaire. He's gay, but he says this truth. And that's why I'm putting him on the show. And it is about the Antichrist. And I think it's fascinating coming from a big tech guy. I never thought these words would fall out of his mouth.
We have the mechanisms that would make world government, a gigantic global surveillance state, is plausible. That seems plausible too. And then I think, again, to come back to the Soloviev-Benson plot hole, on its own, they both seem not that desirable. Why would we have a crazy surveillance state? Why would we do this? But if you're scared enough of these things, that's the weapon. And this is sort of where my speculative thesis is that if the Antichrist were to come to power, it would be by talking about Armageddon all the time. And Peter Thiel, the Antichrist would talk about Armageddon all the time. He'd scare people and then offer to save them. Yes, it's the 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety. Nothing wrong with peace and safety, but you have to sort of imagine that it resonates very differently in a world where the stakes are so absolute, where the stakes are so extreme, where the alternative to peace and safety is Armageddon and the destruction of all things.
Also, I don't do a lot of fear mongering with the Antichrist because I don't want you to be afraid of Armageddon. I fear God. That's the command of the Bible. Fear God and Him alone. Not what these other events are. I watched the late great Planet Earth when I was in 8th grade. Hal Lindsey worrying about the beast and all this stuff. Everyone's only been wrong about it since. I'm a little skeptical of many of the prophecies, but I'm extremely convinced the Bible's true. I've studied all of the beast, all of the scriptures on that. It's not that I don't have more to learn, but I'm convinced, first of all, it's a person. Okay, and he's going to read this Thessalonians scripture. It's all through the scriptures, but it's a person. So people come up to me and go, "The beast is AI, Doug. I can't believe you haven't figured it out." I'm like, you know what? The beast is not AI. Okay, it's a person. He might use AI. He also might use tractors. Okay, so I'm not trying to go and find a tool and try and declare that tool as evil. The Bible doesn't do it. That's my own little personal rant. I'm not trying to make you afraid. I am trying to show you what I agree with Peter Thiel about is that the character of the beast will be peace and safety is what he'll declare, because all the people have to go. And though we can't figure out who he is, as soon as someone tells you who he is, that's not who it is. The people will hover around him because he's going to offer safety and peace to rescue you from Armageddon. That's what I mean by, I've been saying that old quote by Ben Franklin, that anyone who takes away your freedom to offer you safety, well, you deserve neither freedom nor safety. It's like be incredibly skeptical of people that come in and say, "This is scary, so we have to take away all your freedom with AI or with the internet. We'll protect you if you just turn over your freedom." We never turn over our freedom. That's why I liked Margie Taylor Greene's stance on AI. She goes, do not put that AI segment protecting them in the bill and mow over our state our federalist rights, our state rights.
Rene Girard, in I Saw Satan Fall Like Lightning, one of his books, the Antichrist boasts of bringing to human beings the peace and tolerance that Christianity promised, but has failed to deliver.
I think there are all these elements where it's downstream from Christianity. You can think of, the poor shall inherit the earth, Sermon on the Mount. Marxist theory is we're going to be more Christian. We're going to accelerate it. We're going to bring it about faster. So yeah, the Antichrist probably presents as a great humanitarian, it's redistributive. It's as an extremely great philanthropist, as an effective altruist. All of those kinds of things. And these things are not simply anti-Christian, but it is always when they get overly combined with state power.
So it's not that the beast offers something evil and satanic. He offers something good. Take this mark and then I'll give you food. That's a good. But it's the method, it's the taking of the mark that's the problem. So I think that's very interesting. He calls out all of these Marxist agendas like redistributing wealth, forced redistributing wealth, buckling things under the state, that they sound good and they sound moral. And that's why Democrats believe they're doing something moral as they forcibly redistribute wealth. Because even Marxism, though it's a satanic lie, it's not completely incoherent. It is a liar's version of what Christianity is doing. It's a liar's version, an earthly, power-based lie. Not the meek will inherit the earth, not love your enemies as yourself, not take care of the poor and the widows, but it goes, we're in the name of good, pay for USAID with your taxes. We're going to take your and then run them all into a party that's going to do the good thing with it. It always sounds good, but it always ends up being man's political power forcing it and not a flow of God's will through the heart of the church, voluntarily changing the hearts of individuals and letting them have the free will choice of how much to give. I've never heard it put together like Peter Thiel just did in this interview, and that's why I wanted to show it to you. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm inviting you guys into my head for a second.
Something is very wrong. There are sort of ways Christ wants to unify the world. You have the parable of the Good Samaritan, where you should take care of people even if you're not related to them, and it's good to act like the Good Samaritan and to take care of people who are not just in your family or tribe or country. If you force everyone to be a Good Samaritan and you force a borderless world, it's somehow adjacent. Somehow it's an intensification, but it's somehow also very much the opposite.
Wow, this is all new to me. So I don't even know what I think of it yet. I'm not coming to a conclusion yet. Here's Jason Whitlock on the rainbow movement taking over the Super Bowl, which is another form of earthly fake kindness. Sesame Street did this with the gay agenda, going, all people are welcome on Sesame Street, all people. To which I would say, really, even terrorists? It's easy to find people that they reject. They're just fashionably trying to hide behind tolerance and acceptance to push a gay agenda through.
Well, Rob, the NFL is still woke. It's still into Black Lives Matter and that kind of sloganeering they like to put in the end zone. And
just out of curiosity of my audience of football fans, are any of you still watching NFL? I still watch the Super Bowl, but are any of you still watching the Super Bowl, or have all my sports fans all checked out now? Just want to know about that. My big brother read the sports page, followed football all the way back to the early 70s. We would talk about Otis Sistrunk and Larry Zonka and, all these Fran Tarkenton, all the great names going all the way back. In fact, I have a great uncle, Garth Tenaple, that came out of Texas A&M and did very well for the Detroit Lions in the 70s.
They're still into the whole pride deal because the NFL is compromised and it's been blackmailed, in my view, by the legacy media. The whole concussion narrative was blown out of proportion to pressure the NFL to get on board with some of these other initiatives. That if you notice, the mainstream media, the New York Times, ESPN, they've kind of left the concussion conversation alone as long as the NFL gets on board with the LGBTQ, BLM, the group that I like to call the alphabet mafia. The NFL is just, quite frankly, has been blackmailed and leveraged, into getting on board with DEI and all the other woke policies.
That's an interesting theory. It also kind of shows how the devil works through this kind of compromise. And it even goes into a thing that's as neutral as sports. But you know, they can overplay their weak hand a little too much. I found this on Twitter and just found it super. This is my kind of humor. This is Walmart's Pride clothing is so cringe. Woman says it makes her not want to be gay anymore. This is the woman going, you know, I'm a gay person, but I'm going to Walmart to buy my clothes. And they're so cringe and over the top, pandering to gays, that it made her want to not stop buying the clothes, makes her want to stop being gay. It has a les, and then there's a bumblebee in the middle, lesbian. And this one has a Mexican rainbow on the left in Spanish. It says homo estas. If I said the joke homo estas, I think YouTube would probably destroy my channel. And now here's Victor Davis Hanson on the end of Western civilization, thanks to the Democrats.
Jesse, I don't think we understand that the border, securing the border, was not that wasn't the end of everything. That was just the end of the beginning. We've got 12 million people that came in under Biden alone, and 8 to 10 to 15 that were here anyway. You do the math, that's 3 million a year that you would have to deport just to get the Biden illegals gone. And that works out to about 250,000 a month. On a good day, everybody's frenzied and angry because ICE deports 800 people. They'd have to do 8,000, 10 times more if they were going to keep up that rate for the 4 years of the Trump tenure to deport the people that came under Biden alone. This is an existential problem. It's like the $37 trillion debt. There's no answers.
Oh, there's no answers to the $36 trillion debt. Victor Davis Hanson, I love him. He's often been accused of being an Eeyore, but I think it's because both his eyes are open and he's looking around and seeing what's going on with the country. He goes, you're not going to pay down the debt and you're not going to deport all these aliens just because of the sheer number. Now, this is not a slam against Trump at all, because the only right answer is to pay down the debt and to export all of the illegals. So we do our best. We hold back the ocean with the broom. We bring our 12 loaves and fishes to God and say, you're going to have to multiply this. That's the theology I'm behind. That's why I'm ending this thing on a positive note. In the end, I don't fear the beast. I don't fear immigration. I don't fear terrorists. I don't fear the debt. We don't fear. We're looking around. Jesus, why are you asleep in the bottom of the boat in the middle of this storm? He goes, don't you know who I am? I'm Doug in Exile.